When Agastyaarkoodam Calls. The Travelogue, written by Maxi Viswas Mena, is published in Kalakaumudi in the second week of March 2023. This travelogue is translated from Malayalam to English by Silvy Maxi Mena and is presented by herself. When Agastyaarkoodam Calls. 18 long years had passed when Agastyaarkoodam called again. In the days of yore, Agastyaarkoodam had the spirit of pilgrimage. Today, Agastyaarkoodam holds us to the novel experience of being one with nature, adventure, tourism, and the strides of male and female friendship gangs. Feels like a foot walk resembling the gist of human life, reflecting the ups and downs of life through the mountain. In the fullness of time, the imminent bliss which when we reach the peak of the mountain, overcoming the strong, dreadful winds which make us think that they would take us also with them. Tickets can be reserved online from the forest department by paying 1,800 rupees for the Agastyaarkoodam visit, permissible during the months of January and February. Only 100 people will be permitted a day. It is important to keep the Aadhaar card and the medical certificate containing the status of our health. After checking the documents, the authorities will let in the people one by one into the forest around 7 a.m. from the checkpost of the forest department at Bonakad, Thiruvananthapuram. You can carry drinking water, food to consume on the way, and woolen clothes to protect yourself from the biting cold. If you carry plastic items, you need to give the exact number of the items to the officials at the starting point itself. A payment of 200 rupees should be done for the plastic covers and the plastic bottles which you carry with you, and receipts will be issued. When you return from the forest, you have to produce the plastic materials which you carried and can receive the money back. This is to prohibit the travelers from discarding plastic materials inside the forest. After frisking by the officials of the forest department, you can start your journey by walking through a path resembling a country road. Gradually, you can enter the loneliness of the deep woods. The pace of the journey will be minimized due to the boulders and the roots of big trees on the way. You will be depending upon your walking stick at that time. The wild brooks gliding through the tall boulders in the interiors of the forest will grant coolness. By standing straight under the turbulent flow of the cool water descending from the boulders and by swimming in the pond beneath, the fatigue of the walking can be relieved. Sitting on the rocks, you can have the food you carried and resume the journey. The water skimming over the boulder can be collected using a funnel made of a tender leaf into our water bottles to be used as drinking water. The travelers can proceed by wetting their feet in the three water bodies, namely Karamana River, Vazhapaiti River, and Atta River. The water discharge was lower owing to summer. Lot of leeches would be waiting to stick to the bodies of the travelers traversing the marshes during the rainy season. After strolling for 2.5 hours in a normal pace, we would reach Mottakunna or the grassy knoll. The journey is resumed through the grassy knolls with a few trees hither and thither and the lemongrass spread on both sides. The cool breeze would alleviate the fervour of the scorching sun. In the distance, the picturesque beauty of the cloud-clad mountains would meet us in our strides. On the far side of the knoll, the entrance to the dense forest opens. This place is filled with the clamour of the cicadas. Even though people begin their journey as groups, they will become solo travelers from this point. The groupings, chatters, and laughters at the beginning will fade. Your co-travelers will be walking far behind you, or they may be very ahead of you. The pants of your respiration will be your sole companion as you traverse through the arduous path wide enough to fit a single person. The journey continues by relying on the walking sticks and clinging to the boulders. All those times, the spring of the solitary wilderness would unfurl its umbrella over each of the travelers. After subsequent strides in which our mind and musings focused on the walk and hikes, the resting center at Adirimala will be seen. We have to spend the night at the Adirimala base camp. The limitations of the forest department. At the base camp, 200 people can be accommodated inside two shelters made of iron sheets. Earlier, the building here had rock walls, devoid of toilets and bathrooms. In front of the old building, there was a rock edict inscribing, "Building in danger, travelers be cautious." Those times, the forest department had no answer to the perplexed query of where to spend the night other than inside the building in danger. All those structures had been demolished, and in its place came the new construction made of iron sheets. Out of it, a small portion is segregated for the ladies. It was in 2019, following a court order in 2018, that the ladies got permission for the Agastyaarkoodam trekking. Trenches have been dug around the base camp to prevent the entry of wild animals. On reaching Adirimala, the travel documents should be handed over to the officials of the forest department. All the people are tired and are searching for a place to take rest. Beds are less in number. You people please wait. By 9 pm, the canteen area will be free. We will arrange the accommodation for you there, the base camp official said. The time was inching towards 6 pm. Some were trying to doze off, sitting on the benches as the accommodation was still in question. Far off, the Agastyamalai or Agastya mountain peak reigns high, which we should conquer the next day. Many are squatting on the bare soil. The cold was creeping in. The dried ginger tea for ₹15 from the canteen is a great solace. A conduit with a perpetual water flow near the path towards the base camp is a source of water to wash our faces and for drinking. It is not worth the effort for a bath at the bathroom. The tap water will cease as soon as it fills 2 cups. Relishing the wild beauty, one can walk some breaths through a narrow path to take a dip in the icy cold stream. The fatigue will drift away with the stream. Past 7 pm, there was no choice other than to nestle inside the woolen clothes. The acute cold crept inside the body through each breath. Hot porridge, green gram curry, papad, and the lime pickle are available at the canteen past 7:30 pm for ₹150. The crowd dwindled at the canteen past 9 pm. Beds covered of rexine having the size of train berths were laid out. Almost 60 people were there to sleep in the canteen. 3 people should sleep in 2 beds kept adjacent to each other, the official directed. It meant that 30 strangers should sleep close to each other across 20 adjacent beds. The canteen opens at 4 in the morning. You all must wake up before that. Before closing the door, the official instructed again. The frustrated murmurs of protest rose from different nooks of the room. Outside, the gales, like the roaring seas, lashed across the iron sheets of the base camp, resonating a train's chuff. The varied intonations of snoring accompanied it. As the situation was such that a swerve of co-sleeper could act as a potential thwack, sleep didn't embrace me even though I had great fatigue. In the midst of the night, I opened the door and stepped out. The tree branches were incessantly flapping in the gale. Clusters of stars had bloomed in the sky. Yonder, the dark-hued Agastya mountain standing still, motionless. The sight of the rainbow swirling around the mountain in my last visit to the place brushed across my memory. At 5 in the morning, people who wanted black coffee hustled and bustled, standing beside the people unable to finish their sleep in the canteen. At the same time, a long queue formed in front of the toilet too. The next journey begins at 7 am. One group will proceed towards the Agastya mountains and the others on the journey back. Those who were planning to climb the mountain that day spread their clothes and bags over the beds of the people who were leaving, thus reserving the beds for them when they returned back after climbing the mountain. To satiate my hunger on the way, I bought a parcel for rupees 130 containing 2 pieces of steamed cake and gram curry. At the summit of Agastya mountain. This journey was even more arduous than that of the previous day. Often, we had to raise our strides to the level of our chests. The paths tapered at many places. After 1.5 hours, we reached the vast Pongalapara or Pongala rock. Mountain ranges surrounded it. We would feel to spend a great deal of time there, savoring the scenic beauty of the hills and the forest. Rare species of trees, flowers, and plants hitherto unseen will amaze us during the journey. The scent of elephant wafts around the snap bushes by the footsteps of an elephant that passed ahead. The unwilted feces of diverse animals lay scattered across the trek path. We don't have much time to spend on the way as the entry to Agastyamalai is only till 12 noon. The path forward seemed to be narrow and precipitous. For the sake of those descending down the slope, I had to cling to the edges of the path many times. After clutching onto the boulders, at times hanging to the ropes and climbing upwards with strenuous efforts, the undulating, elevated mountain manifested itself in front of us. The aeolian whistle of the gale, feet sweating with perturbation. I can see the people clutching the ropes with exertion and climbing the huge mountain which stands with its head held high amidst the blue mountains on either side in the abyss. Shivakumar alias Tambanur Shashi, who had been visiting Agastyamalai consistently for the past 21 years, approached with instructions. Clutch the strong rope and focus only on your footsteps and move forward. Don't look at the surroundings. You will feel disheartened. My eyes focused only on my footsteps stepping on the rock. I caught hold on the rope and gradually climbed upward the mountain. The pace of breathing and heartbeats felt astray. No choice other than to climb forward. Again, another hill like the one before. The third hill is the Agastya mountain. The gale imparted the chilliness in midst of the scorching blaze of the sun. The pinnacle of an endeavor that required around 27 kilometers of treads and clambers. The exhilarated feeling of reaching the zenith of the earth. The rocket statue of sage Agastya on the top of mountain is being offered prayers by many of the visitors. Tender trees outspread a shade around it. I am standing 6,129 feet above the sea level. The blue-hued hill ranges surrounding the mountain are in great depths. Many of the travelers are relishing the comfort of achieving the target by sitting and stretching out on the mountain. The young men and women are capturing the climax of an adventurous journey as snapshots through their phones. Close at hand, a jet plane proceeds on the clear sky, carving a long line resembling cotton puffs. While descending the mountain too, we must control our gaze from hooking the surroundings. If our minds get uneasy, we would have to sit and crawl down the rocks. Even after climbing down 3 great hills in the subsequent descents, the knees would start aching, legs would feel weary. Even though we had ordered in advance porridge and green gram to have at noon, it was already past 5 when we reached Adrimala. As we carried cucumber, dried fruits, and bread during the trekking, we didn't feel hunger too. We planned to have the porridge at night. The mobile phones, which had lost the battery charges after overusing them to take photos, can be recharged at the canteen. The canteen authorities asked for 50 rupees as fees for recharging, arguing that it is done using solar energy. When we reached the base camp, we saw the people planning to ascend the Agastya mountain the next day had convened. They were asking the people who had descended the hill about their experience of the trekking. The snake at the base camp. The authorities switched off the lights of the resting center around 9 p.m. After all the people started sleeping, an officer stepped inside with some people and lighted the torch on a sleeping man's face and said, "Budge up a bit. One more person has to sleep here. Give me back 1,800 rupees which I paid online. I will go out." The man replied in vexation drowsily. When the argument intensified, the officer was on his own without any supporters. He had no answers for the question of how around 300 people reach the base camp at night when only 100 people are permitted per day for the trekking. "We'll deal with you when you return after climbing the mountain," the officer retorted, challenging the people around, and he left with his group. As time elapsed with the snows and the wind resonating the door, a yell shriek, "Snake! Snake!" and the people leapt out of their beds. Like a Mexican wave and a clamor ensued. Hurling the blanket away and jolting the man sleeping beside, I also joined the tumult. Some had switched on their mobile phone torches. All are hopping up and down without setting their feet on the beds. Amidst the chaos, someone went out and brought the forest department officer. Even at that time, the lights were not switched on in the room. The officers started lifting the beds one by one and searched for the snake in the light of a mobile phone torch. Finally, he took out a long, thin snake on a stick from underneath one of the beds and went out. He told that the snake was not venomous. In my drowsiness, I thought it was a mobile phone's cable that was sliding down my arm. But when it had started moving up, I realized it was a snake. After the victim described the episode, a discussion followed, and finally, when all went to bed again, it was past 11:30 p.m. Years before, when I first came to Agastyamalai and was going to sleep in the evening, I had the same experience as a snake came into the room. Some people noticed it while spreading out their grass mats to sleep. It was venomous. A brave pilgrim suspended it from a stick and released it out. The forest department officials testified that the issue of the snake is an expected experience at the base camp. What remains after the Agastya mountain journey is a captivating experience which is beyond words. Agastyaarkoodam, which is the abode of mental fortitude, recreation, physical strength, and introspection, has a spiritual significance as well. However, it is a sad state of affairs that there are some people who reach here with the sole aim of indulging in alcohol consumption and defying the rules, ignoring the immensely beautiful experiences of nature. By scheming to surpass the checking of the forest department, they conceal the liquor bottles in their waist, and by sneaking in colorless liquor in the guise of drinking water through their bags, these rule breakers who challenge the strict instructions of the forest department are often more dangerous than the venomous snakes that one may encounter in the journey. They may even risk their own lives. Today, Agastyaarkoodam is the ideal spot for young people fond of adventures. During off-season, by paying a higher fee, one can avail the permission for Agastyaarkoodam trip. As the number of travelers are increasing, there is a hike in the entry fees every year, but in proportion to it, nothing is being done by the forest department in improving the basic facilities for the travelers. At least there should be the bare essential of a single bed per person to sleep independently and comfortably at night. The authorities must strictly inspect and prohibit those who sneak in liquor and narcotic stimulants inside the forest. The presence of a medical team is also crucial at the camp. The Agastya Peak, which is a part of the Western Ghats, has a height of 1,868 meters. The Agastyamalai in the vicinity of Kuttichal Panchayat of Thiruvananthapuram shares its boundaries with Tirunelveli, Kanyakumari districts of Tamil Nadu and Kollam, Pathanamthitta districts of Kerala. Bonakkadu, the entry point of Agastyaarkoodam, is to be reached from Thiruvananthapuram via Vidura. The Agastya mountain, famous for its medicinal herbs, is eponymously known after sage Agastya, one among the great seven sages or Saptarshi.